There are moments in life when you feel the urge to move on, to close a chapter, to walk away from something or someone because it seems easier than holding on. You convince yourself that it's time to let go, that moving forward is the only way to find peace. But deep inside, something keeps pulling you back. A quiet voice, a gentle nudge, a deep sense that you are not supposed to move on just yet. And that feeling, it's not just your emotions, it's not just wishful thinking, it's God speaking to your spirit, telling you that this connection still has a purpose in your life. Not every relationship is meant to be left behind. Not every door is meant to be closed. Sometimes God places certain people in your life for a divine reason. One that may not make sense right now, one that you may not fully understand. In the natural, it might seem like you should walk away, like the chapter should be over. But God doesn't operate on human logic. His ways are higher, His plans are greater, and His understanding is beyond what we can see. You see, God doesn't always remove people when we expect Him to. Sometimes He keeps them there because they are a part of His plan for your growth, your healing, and even your purpose. You may not realize it now, but that connection is shaping something within you. It is strengthening you, teaching you, and molding you into the person He is calling you to be. There are some lessons that can only be learned through relationships, some breakthroughs that only come when you walk through the struggles, the waiting, and the uncertainty with another person. You may be wondering, but what if this connection is difficult? What if this relationship is full of pain, misunderstandings, or distance? Let me remind you, God does not make mistakes. If He is telling you to stay, to wait, to trust, then He has a reason. He is working in ways you cannot see, orchestrating things behind the scenes, aligning hearts and bringing healing in places you didn't even know were broken. What looks like silence is often preparation. What feels like delay is often God's perfect timing unfolding. Think about the times in your life when you wanted to walk away from something, but later realized that staying was the best thing you could have done. Maybe it was a friendship that was tested, a relationship that seemed impossible, or a bond that felt too broken to mend. But God stepped in. He brought healing where there was pain. He brought restoration where there was distance. And He made something beautiful out of something that once seemed lost. When God asks you to hold on, He is not asking you to suffer. He is asking you to trust. He is asking you to let go of your own understanding and lean into His wisdom. You may not see the full picture, but He does. He knows the end from the beginning. And if He is keeping someone in your life, it's because they are meant to be a part of your story, whether for a season of growth, a time of healing, or a lifetime of purpose. So don't rush to move on just because things don't make sense right now. Don't walk away simply because it's hard. Seek God, listen to His voice, and trust His leading. If He is telling you to stay, then there is something greater ahead. Keep your faith strong, keep your heart open, and let Him guide you in His perfect way. There is a difference between holding on because of faith and holding on because of fear. Many times people stay in a relationship, a friendship, or a connection not because they truly believe God is leading them, but because they are afraid of being alone, afraid of change, afraid of the unknown. They mistake their fear for a sign that they should stay, when in reality, fear is never from God. Fear keeps you bound, but faith sets you free. Fear keeps you stuck in a cycle of doubt and insecurity, but faith gives you the confidence to trust that God's plan is greater than your understanding. When God is leading you to hold on, it will never feel like a prison. It will not be a place of anxiety, desperation, or emotional turmoil. Even if the situation is challenging, even if there are struggles, there will still be a deep sense of peace that surpasses understanding. There will be an unshakable knowing in your spirit that this is where you are supposed to be, but when you're holding on out of fear, it will feel heavy. It will feel like a battle you are constantly fighting in your own strength. It will drain you, confuse you, and keep you from moving forward in the way God desires. This is why it is so important to ask yourself, am I staying because God is asking me to, or am I staying because I am afraid of letting go? Because one leads to growth and the other leads to bondage. God never calls you to remain in something just because you are scared of what life might look like without it. He does not keep you in a situation out of guilt, pressure, or obligation. He leads you with peace, with purpose, and with the assurance that even in the waiting, He is working. When God tells you to hold on, it is because He is doing something behind the scenes. Maybe He is working on your heart, shaping your character, or strengthening your faith. Maybe He is working on the other person, bringing them through their own process of healing and transformation. Maybe there is something that needs to be refined, restored, or rebuilt before things can fully align. But if you are staying because of fear, you will never experience the true work God is trying to do. Instead of growing, you will be stuck in a cycle of anxiety, always wondering if things will ever change, always doubting whether you made the right decision. Faith requires trust. It requires you to surrender your own understanding and believe that God knows what He is doing. It requires you to stop trying to control the outcome and instead rest in the fact that God's timing is perfect. When you are walking in faith, you are not forcing things to happen. You are not constantly questioning whether you made the right choice. You are at peace, even in the waiting, because you know that God is in control. But when you are walking in fear, you are restless. You are exhausted from trying to hold everything together. You are anxious, worried, and overwhelmed because deep inside, you are afraid that if you let go, you will lose something you were never meant to keep. God does not want you to live in fear. He wants you to live in faith. And if He is asking you to hold on, trust that it is for a reason. Trust that He is doing something greater than what you can see. Trust that His plan is bigger than your emotions, bigger than your doubts, bigger than your fears. But also trust that if He ever asks you to let go, it is because He has something better in store. His guidance will always lead you toward peace, never toward confusion or chaos. So take a moment and seek Him. Ask Him to reveal His will to you. Ask Him to give you clarity, to separate faith from fear, and to lead you in the way you should go. And whatever He speaks to your heart, whether it is to hold on or to move forward, trust Him completely, because His plan is always perfect and He will never lead you astray. Waiting is never easy. It is one of the hardest things to do, especially when your heart longs for answers, when your mind is filled with uncertainty, and when you feel like nothing is changing. You pray, you seek God, and yet it seems like the situation remains the same. In those moments, it is tempting to take matters into your own hands, to force a solution, or to walk away simply because waiting feels too painful. But God is not ignoring you. He is not silent for no reason. When He calls you to wait, it is because there is something happening that you cannot yet see. Spiritual growth does not happen in moments of comfort. It happens in seasons of waiting. It is in the waiting that your faith is tested, that your trust in God is strengthened, that your heart is refined. You may not understand why He is asking you to stay, why He is leading you not to move on from someone, why He is keeping you in a place that feels uncertain. But He knows what He is doing. He is preparing you, shaping you, and working behind the scenes in ways you do not yet realize. Sometimes we think we are ready for something when in reality there is still growth that needs to take place. There are still lessons we need to learn, areas in our hearts that need to be healed, and aspects of our faith that need to be strengthened. If God were to give us everything we wanted in our timing, we might not be able to handle it the way He intends. He sees the bigger picture. He knows what needs to be worked on, both in you and in the other person. And if He is asking you to wait, it is because He is doing something in this season that is necessary for what is to come. The waiting season is not about punishment. It is about preparation. It is about learning to lean on God in ways you never have before. It is about deepening your trust in Him even when you do not see immediate results. It is about surrendering your timeline and believing that His timing is always perfect. When you rush ahead of God, you miss out on what He is trying to do. You step outside of His will and try to create your own outcome instead of letting Him unfold His perfect plan. But when you wait on Him, you position yourself to receive His best. Many times, people think that waiting means doing nothing, but waiting on God is active. It is a time to pray, to seek His wisdom, to grow spiritually, and to become the person He is calling you to be. If He is keeping someone in your life, if He is leading you not to move on, then use this time wisely. Do not just sit in frustration, wondering when things will change. Instead, draw closer to God. Let Him work on your heart. Let Him strengthen you in the waiting, so that when the time comes, you are ready to step into His plan fully prepared. It is easy to look at your situation and feel discouraged. It is easy to think that if nothing is happening, then God must not be working. But faith is believing in what you cannot see. Faith is trusting that God is moving even when it feels like everything is standing still. The waiting season is not wasted. Every prayer you pray, every step of faith you take, every moment you choose to trust instead of doubt, it all matters. It's a triumph and a doubt. It is all part of the process. So do not let frustration push you into making a decision outside of God's will. Do not let impatience make you walk away from something God is still working on. If He is asking you to wait, then trust that there is a reason. His ways are higher, His plans are greater, and His timing is always perfect. Keep seeking Him, keep believing, and keep holding on, because what He has for you is worth the wait. Sometimes we look at a relationship that seems broken, distant, or beyond repair and assume that it is over. We convince ourselves that if things were meant to work out, they would have by now. But what if God is not finished yet? What if the struggle, the separation, or the silence is not the end, but rather a part of the process? What if what seems lost is actually being restored in ways you cannot yet see? God specializes in restoration. He takes what is broken and makes it whole. He takes what looks impossible and turns it into a testimony. He takes relationships that seem beyond saving and breathes new life into them. But restoration does not happen on our timeline. It does not always happen in the way we expect. Sometimes God has to take people apart for a season so He can bring them back together stronger than before. Sometimes He has to work on hearts individually before they can be aligned again. Just because something looks like it is falling apart does not mean that God is not still working. When God is leading you not to move on from someone, it is because He sees something that you do not. He knows what is ahead. He knows what He is preparing. What looks like a delay to you is actually divine timing. What feels like rejection is actually redirection. There is a purpose in the waiting, a reason for the silence, a lesson in the process. If God is keeping someone in your heart, it is not without purpose. If He is leading you to hold on, even when things seem uncertain, then trust that He is still writing the story. We often expect restoration to be instant. We want things to go back to how they were right away. But true restoration takes time. It takes healing. It takes surrender. God is not interested in simply putting things back together the way they were. He wants to make them better than before. He wants to refine you, to strengthen you, to grow you in ways that will make the relationship healthier, deeper, and more aligned with His will. If He allowed things to fall apart for a season, it was not to destroy you, but to rebuild something stronger. There will be moments when doubt creeps in, moments when you wonder if you are holding on to something that will never change, moments when you question if you are just wasting your time. But God is not a God of wasted time. If He has asked you to wait, if He has placed this person in your life for a reason, then you must trust that He knows what He is doing. Even when you cannot see the outcome, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Faith is believing that God is working even in the silence. But understand this, restoration is not just about the other person, it is about you too. God does not just want to change their heart, He wants to work on yours. He wants to refine your patience, strengthen your trust, and teach you how to love the way He loves. He wants to remove any pride, any selfishness, any fear that is holding you back. Because true restoration requires two people who are both transformed by Him. It is not about going back to what was. It is about stepping into something new, something stronger, something built on faith and trust in God's plan. So do not rush the process. Do not try to force things to happen in your own strength. Do not give up just because you do not see immediate results. If God is leading you to stay, to wait, to trust, then hold on to His promise. Hold on to the belief that He is working even when you cannot see it, because when God restores, He does not just fix what is broken, He makes it brand new. And what He has for you will always be greater than what you could have imagined on your own. There are times in life when you feel exhausted, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You have prayed, waited, and believed, yet nothing seems to change. The weight of uncertainty, the pain of unanswered questions, and the struggle of not knowing what's ahead can drain your strength. You tell yourself that maybe it's time to let go, that maybe moving on is the only way to find peace. But deep in your heart, something keeps telling you to hold on. Something inside whispers that this is not the end, that something is God's voice reminding you that He is still working, that He has not forgotten you, and that His plan is unfolding even when you cannot see it. God never promised that the journey would be easy, but He did promise that He would be with you every step of the way. He sees the tears you've cried in silence. He knows the weight you carry in your heart. He understands the battle between your faith and your fears. And yet He is asking you to trust Him. Not just when things make sense, not just when you see progress, but even when everything feels uncertain. That is the true test of faith, to believe in His plan when there is no visible evidence, to trust that He is working behind the scenes when it feels like nothing is moving. When God is leading you not to move on, it is because there is a greater purpose in this situation than you can see right now. He is shaping something within you, refining your character, and teaching you lessons that you will need in the future. Every difficult season has a purpose. Every moment of waiting has a reason. God does not waste your pain. He uses it to strengthen you. And while it may feel like nothing is happening, the truth is the greatest work often happens beneath the surface where no one can see. Think about how gold is refined. It must go through the fire to be purified. It must endure intense heat to remove its impurities. In the same way, sometimes God allows you to walk through the fire, not to destroy you, but to refine you, to purify your faith, to prepare you for what is ahead. The waiting, the struggles, and the pain are not meaningless. They are part of the process that will lead to something greater. It is easy to grow weary in the waiting. It is tempting to walk away when things don't happen in your timing, but God's timing is perfect. He knows exactly when to move, when to open doors, and when to bring things together. If He is asking you to wait, it is because there is still work to be done. Maybe there are things in your heart that need healing. Maybe there are lessons you need to learn. Maybe there is something being prepared that you cannot see yet. But whatever the reason, you must trust that His plan is always greater than yours. Holding on does not mean standing still. It means continuing to grow, continuing to seek God, continuing to trust that He will make all things right in His perfect time. It means focusing on your own personal journey with Him rather than obsessing over the outcome. It means letting go of control and surrendering fully to His will, believing that if He has asked you to wait, it is for a reason. God is never late. He never makes mistakes. He never forgets His promises. If He is telling you to hold on, then hold on with faith. Hold on with hope. Hold on with the assurance that He is not finished yet. And when the time is right, when the work is complete, He will reveal the purpose behind every moment of waiting. Until then, keep trusting, keep believing, and know that He is always in control. Sometimes God places someone in your life, and no matter how much time passes, no matter how many obstacles arise, no matter how much uncertainty you face, that person remains in your heart. You may try to walk away. You may convince yourself that it would be easier to move on, but something inside you keeps pulling you back. An unshakable feeling, a deep knowing that this is not the end. This is not just your emotions. This is not just wishful thinking. When God is truly leading you not to move on from someone, He is doing something far greater than what you can see in the present moment. There are times when separation is necessary, not as an ending, but as a season of growth. God may allow distance, struggles, or even silence to refine both you and the other person. He is not keeping you in this place to hurt you or to cause you pain, but to prepare you for something better. If He has placed this connection in your heart so deeply, there is a reason. And while you may not fully understand it now, you have to trust that He does. God does not work according to human timelines. He does not rush the process, and He does not follow our expectations. What may feel like a delay to you is actually divine timing. What may feel like rejection is actually redirection. He is aligning everything according to His perfect will, and sometimes that means waiting longer than you want to, but waiting does not mean wasting time. Waiting is a season of preparation, a season of transformation, a season where God is working in ways you may not see. It is easy to let doubt creep in when you do not see immediate results. It is easy to assume that silence means nothing is happening. But faith is believing in what you cannot see. Faith is trusting that God is working even when there is no evidence yet. When He calls you to stay, it is not to make you suffer. It is because He is still writing the story. And the best chapters are the ones that require patience, faith, and surrender. Holding on to God's promise is not about waiting passively. It is about growing in the waiting. It is about becoming the person He has called you to be. If He is working on your heart, then embrace the process. If He is shaping you, refining you, and molding you into someone stronger, wiser, and more faithful, then trust that He is doing the same for the other person as well. True restoration does not come from rushing ahead. It comes from allowing God to do the work in His time. The enemy will try to plant doubt in your heart. He will try to convince you that nothing will change, that you are holding on to false hope, that you should give up. But God's voice is not a voice of fear, confusion, or despair. His voice is one of peace, one of reassurance, one that whispers, I am still working. You have to hold on to that. You have to trust that He sees the full picture, that He knows what is best, that He is making a way where there seems to be no way. But trusting God does not mean sitting in sorrow, waiting for something to change. It means living fully in the present, growing spiritually, deepening your relationship with Him, and preparing your heart for whatever He has planned. It means surrendering your own timeline and embracing His. It means letting go of control and allowing Him to unfold His perfect plan in His perfect way. God is not finished yet. What He started, He will complete. What He promised, He will fulfill. If He has led you to hold on, then trust that there is a reason. Even in the waiting, even in the uncertainty, even when you do not understand, He is working all things together for good. And in His time, He will reveal the purpose behind every moment of patience and faith. Keep trusting, keep believing, and know that His plan is always greater than anything you could have imagined.